This is the video for the jab, or the number one punch. It's called the number one punch because it's the first punch you learn, it's the first punch you throw. It's not very powerful. It's not always very powerful. It's not as powerful as a cross. It can be very, very powerful. You can knock somebody out with a jab if you get the technique down right. But you're using your forward hand, you're using your lead hand, so you don't have as much wind-up for it. And it's mostly used in a match. It's mostly used just to keep your opponent off balance, throw nice light jabs at him, keep him at a distance, keep him away, set him up for a finishing shot with the power hand. So the way a jab starts, start from your fighting stance. I'm showing this left-handed right now. Start from your fighting stance. Since it's a left-handed fighting stance, my right hand is forward, my right hand is my jab hand. Jab starts, no punch starts from your arms. No punch is thrown with your arms. All your arm muscles do is direct the punch, point it where it needs to go. That's all they do. They have no part in throwing it. Throwing it is done with your legs, and your hips, and your core. So when I throw the jab, the first thing I do is step my right foot just a little bit forward, maybe an inch. Maybe 2 inches. It doesn't have to be that much. I just step my right foot a little bit forward, and I throw my right hip a little bit forward. So it looks like this. I'm kind of turning my body, so instead of being faced like this, I'm now facing like this. That little shift is all I need to generate an enormous amount of power. From there, my shoulder follows my hip. So my shoulder is now pointing, not directly at the target, but pretty close. And then the fist comes out, turns over at the last second, and goes through the target. So it looks like this. Now, when you throw a jab with just your arm, this is what it looks like. No matter how strong you are, no matter how much upper body strength you are, it will never match the amount of power you can generate by using your hips. So once again, foot forward, hip forward, shoulder forward, arm forward. So it starts from the bottom, it starts from the ground, it goes like a chain. After you practice it enough times, you'll develop a feel for it. On the right hand, it looks, from a right-handed stance, it looks like this. Right-handed stance, left foot is forward, left hand is throwing the jab. Left hand is the jab hand. The foot, hip, shoulder, arm. Now you see why I box like that, because my left hand is too stupid to jab. Not too stupid, it just doesn't do it very well. Okay, there are a lot of... Jab is a hard one to teach, it's a hard one to learn. The easiest way to learn it is actually to learn it from a good instructor, a good school, who can watch you do it 50 million times and tell you what you're doing wrong 50 million times, because that's about how many times it's going to take to learn to do it right. That being said, if you're watching this video at all, I'm assuming you don't have a school. So, here are some tricks to teach yourself to do the jab right. In a mirror, get yourself a mirror and practice jabs in the mirror, not hitting anything, just shadow boxing. One of the things, the biggest problems is people not turning their hips. So practice just doing this. Rotating your shoulders to where the jab is going to be. You don't actually throw anything, just rotate your shoulders into it. Now, you can tell you're doing it right when your elbow comes straight forward like this. If it comes out like this, you're doing it wrong. That's going to take away all the power out of your jab. The second big thing that people do wrong is they throw their elbow out. So this is where you're to practice just the hand movement, the arm movement for the jab. You're going to watch yourself in the mirror. And you're going to have your hands in loose fists like this. You're going to watch the jab come out like this, and then turn over. then turn back over, then come back like this. So it looks like this. Now, if you're turning over your wrist, people's elbows come out because they turn their wrist over too early. They try and turn like this and then punch. It takes away all the power. First thing that does is it bends your wrist because you're trying to point your fist at the target. Don't worry about that. The fist will be pointed at the target when it gets there. It doesn't need to be pointed at it now. So when it points like this, the elbow comes up to compensate, and then kind of comes forward like this. Well, that's taking away all the structural support of your wrist. It's throwing the force out at an angle like that and then back at an angle like this instead of one straight line like that. So to fix it, watch your fist like this, watch the punch come out in a straight line like this with your fist going like that, and then turn it over at the last second. And do that a number of times. It's going to be the same for every punch. A word on hitting, you're going to want to hit with the two knuckles, these two knuckles right here. The reason is the carpal bones in your wrist, you've got, on this side, you've got your scaphoid and the lunate bone that articulate directly with your radius. That's the large bone up here that comes to the outside of your elbow. So from here all the way to your elbow, it's solid bone, or it's not solid bone, but it's bone. There's bones that joint all the way through. On the pinky side, there's no bones right here. There's actually a gap between the triquettal and the pisiform bones, which are the carpals, and the ulna, which is the long bone of the arm. There's an actual gap between it, and this is important. This is what allows your wrists to flex laterally and medially, like this. So it's useful, it's important, but it means that these bones are smaller, weaker, and not as supported as well as these bones. So you're going to practice hitting with just these two knuckles. So when you practice, fist comes out like this, almost in a hammering motion. Elbow comes up, the fist stays on a level with your shoulder, and then it turns over at the last second, and you hit with these two knuckles. Another point to bear in mind is your wrist has to stay straight at all times. If you hit and it bends, that can break your wrist. If you hit like this with these knuckles forward, that can bend it backwards. If you hit off to the side and the bag is spinning, it can bend it to the side. It's hard to do, to demonstrate. Or you hit it off like this, and it can bend your wrist off to the side. You want to practice with your accuracy with light punches, just getting the technique down. Don't worry about punching hard. Just worry about getting the technique down. Nice light jabs. And then eventually power will come. And the last point is that power doesn't come from how hard you push the jab out. Power comes from speed. Speed comes from being relaxed. Being relaxed comes from how fast you pull the jab back. So the last mistake, the mistake that everybody makes is they try and push through the bag. Okay, great, that's great. Going through the bag. I want you to go through the bag. I want you to visualize, ultimately I want you to visualize yourself punching here and hitting here. So when you hit, your fist goes right through, and it actually moves the bag. You get some penetration. But if you're pushing the bag, that means you're flexing all your muscles. Your jab is getting slower. It needs to be fast. So think of it instead of like, I'm going to hit, think of it like a whip crack. You throw the whip out, and it's what pulling the whip back, that's what snaps it. That's what makes the crack. So when you throw it out, it's the pulling back that makes it so fast. So it's not like okay?